early on, when I started doing front of the house, I learned that the key to have a good front of the house mix is to have a good monitor mix for the band. If they can hear themselves well, then they could perform better and you'll have a really good front of the house sound. And so working like kind of reverse engineer that, I found that in-ear monitors are better as a general rule. Number one, you don't want to have that loud stage. For instance, EBI's stage, before he did full in-ears, he had two tri-amp side fills. It was extremely loud. So the band, after intermission, most of them were tired of the loudness. So the performance would affect. Therefore, that was the big reason. I wanted to make sure the band and EBI, they are not only they're performing, but they're enjoying their performance. And KLANG Fabrik made that happen for me. Because the first thing that when you move people from wedges to in-ears, the sense of space is no longer there. So to create that, you have to be really creative. And with KLANG Fabrik is that tool that gives that feel of 3D and that space. Therefore, musicians and the singers don't feel boxed in.
I'm using Digigo desks and we're running all the stage inputs into the SD rack. I'm sharing the SD rack with my colleague Sia at front of house. And I'm using for the whole band KLANG Fabrik system. And we're using two KLANG Quelle to get all the musicians except for our main singer their in-ear feeds. And all the band members are mixing them by themselves. Except for EBI, that's what I'm doing here, and I'm especially for his mix responsible, and so all my attention goes to his belongs. So basically we're starting with all the stage inputs coming into the stage rack, and as I said before, we're using one stage box for both of the consoles, front of house and to the monitors. And from there I have everything lined up on the desk. So I'm using the desk processing and some of the wave stuff in the inserts. Then I'm sending some of the mixes, some of the signals I'm sending in through a direct out post fader to the KLANG Fabrik over MIDI. And because we have 8 musicians on stage, so we're using 2 KLANG Fabriks at the same time. So I'm sending all the inputs from the first unit into the second one and sending all the mixes back via Dante back into the first one, and some of them over MIDI back into the desk, and I have it over here and I can listen to it. And also for EBI, the main singer, I'm sending it out from the desk into this wireless in-ear system and have some master processing on it. And the other guys are going straight into from the Dante world into KLANG Quelle on their positions for doing their own monitor send levels straight to their in-ears.
KLANG Fabrik has been very, very stable for us, and the KLANG Quells. That's another product that it's kind of under the shadow of KLANG Fabrik, but it's a fantastic device. I love this little thing because it's easy. You run a Cat 5 and you have 4 beautiful headphone amps, and you don't have to run, RF and frequencies. That's one of the things that we did. We're only running 4 RF frequencies, and 2 of them are really as a backup. So it's really easy. So if there's an issue with the frequency, we can jump to another frequency, no problem. So that's another device for a band. If you have a lot of members who are just standing, why use wireless? Just use a KLANG Quelle, run cable, just a Cat 5, and better sound, no issues with RF, more stable.
So basically these are all of our inputs. So we have a regular drum set, bass, a guitar, 2 keyboard players, a flute and saxophone player, and EBI himself. And I'm always tend to have everything lined up together so that my drum reverb, for example, is nearby the drums, no matter where it is at the patch input, and also with the flute effects and EBI's effects. And basically I'm lining it up if he was sitting in the drum set, so the kick and snares at the front and the hi-hat. The toms more at the back because you don't need them just to have a good picky sound. Then I have the bass inside of his head because from my opinion it's easier to mix, and because some of the low frequencies get hard to handle when they're on a 3D, but it depends what kind of music you're mixing on. And always what I'm trying to do is when I have separated keyboards or multiple keyboards, I try to overlay them in an X form, that it's not really a left and right, or that they're not just left and right centered. So one is lined up more to the right side in front and the other one on the left, and they're crossing in between. So it sounds not too widened, but you have a good stereo image. And for the flute and sax, because I started with place them behind his head because he is standing on a riser behind him. But then during a couple of shows we decided to put it more to the front, that it's more acoustically visible for him. And his vocal at the front, and I moved them just a little bit up. There's a sweet spot where they really pop out instead of having them really in the center. And then there are just the miscollisions with some talkback mics, my ambience mics, which are one of my important signals overall, because it's an intense show and you want to get the energy from the crowd, and I want to give him that back. So the overhead, the ambience mic and his own microphone are the importantest signals that I use to mixing that show.